Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Journey to KidLit. As always, I'm Brooke Van Sickle, and I'm your host today. So today I want to talk to you about picture book editing. Why do you need to do it? It's a short story. They're under 500 words. So why do you need to edit so many drafts? Well, I'm going to show you what it looks like for me when I'm an editor. So these few pages right here, this is Pirates Stuck at Sea, my first book. So these are printed copies. But each book that I have coming out, there's more and more because this one is still in process. This is Humans in Training, so that book comes out next month. And then this is My Castle, which doesn't come out until November. Look at how many copies and how many different printed copies I have of all of these books. So many. It's like an entire printer ream. Why am I showing you that? Why should you care? Well, it's because if you're writing a picture book, even though they're short, it doesn't mean that you get out of having to do edits. I mean, my books are less than 350 words most of the time. But if I have to do this many edits, you do too. So for my first book, Pirates Stuck at Sea, some of you might know, it took me 30 different drafts to get a proper, fully tightened manuscript on that. And we did just win a couple of nominations for a couple of different awards, so it was a well-written story. It's not that I can't write it. But why does that matter? So if you're a picture book writer, there are some things that you really need to pay attention to when you're doing your edits to make sure you're presenting the best possible draft of a story before you send it out. Obviously, you need to have a solid plot and character development before you move on to these three. So if you're still working on those, we have a lot of resources on Journey to KidLit, including character cards and plot development. Those you need to make sure you have first. These three are just like your fine tuning. Once you have your story, what do? So there's three things I want you to look at. First is verb choice. So in a picture book, like for instance my books, I have 300 words. That's not very many words. So if I'm saying ran, skipped, ran, said, like all over, you just keep repeating the same verbs, they're going to catch on and it kind of comes across super boring. You need to remember that picture books are going to be read out loud, and so it's kind of fun if you can vary your word choice. And a great place to do this is in verb choices. I was told once by one of my critique partners that you shouldn't repeat a verb ever in a picture book. So that's what I've always made as my goal whenever I'm writing, is to use a different verb for every single action that happens throughout my story. I think it's a great tip for you to incorporate as well. So just go through and highlight or note all of the different verbs that you use throughout one manuscript. And if you've repeated one, circle it, and then go back and see if you can thesaurus it and try to find a new word. Because you have so few, you might as well use more words. And then another option or another editing point is you need to cut down on excessive description. This is especially important if you're one of those people that has a really, really long manuscript. Like if your picture book is 1,000 words, I can promise you have plenty that you should be cutting, and it's probably mostly in your description. If you're saying someone is yellow and they have on this beautiful ornate scarf and they're wearing jeans, and you're describing every single thing that's happening, and this is the room and this is what it looks like, and they're going here and this is exactly where they're going and this is what it looks like, that is chapter book writing, my friends, not a picture book. So how can you cut down on those? I want you to think as you're reading, is this something that an illustrator will show? Is this something that I should let the illustrator come up with? Because, like, for instance, my book, Humans in Training, I don't mention once what kind of dog Kobe is. I only mention that he's a dog one time because it's told in first person. And if I would have said, he's a golden retriever with long flowing hair and just the beautifulest curls behind his ears and that wouldn't have been my job. Who knows if he's supposed to be a golden retriever? That's up to the illustrator. Especially if you're planning to do traditional publishing. I know with some of you that are self-publishing, you have a little more leeway, but even in a self-publishing situation, I really firmly believe that you should give your illustrator room to do what they do best, and that is tell a story through illustrations. So if you're doing any of those descriptions, be sure to cut those and just remove them, because you want to make sure that you have a fully dissected just down to dialogue and actions. So it reads well, reads fast, read it out loud. How does it sound? Does it sound like it's dragging in points? Do you notice those spots where you're trying to explain what they're supposed to be seeing? If you're worried that an illustrator or a reader isn't going to know what's happening, just put in an illustrator note that just says, hey, this is where they're at. So that way the illustrator is like, okay, I know what you expect me to draw. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to put it in the description. And then the last thing that you want to do on picture books when you're editing is you need to think about your page turns. You should put it in a dummy layout. So it's 32 pages. The first few are reserved for like copyright and all that. So it starts on page 4 and then it ends on like page 31. So you have a little bit less than the full 32. And you want to lay out. So how are your words going to fall? What is it going to look like if they were to turn the page? Do you have that turn on there? They're called page turns because it's kind of like a cliffhanger. So like in Pirates Stuck at Sea, the page turn is, but none of the pirates found any treasure because they're looking for treasure the whole time. So that's like a cue to obviously turn the page. It doesn't happen on every page, but it's one that it keeps the reader going. So in your story, what do you have that's keeping the reader going? Have you made sure that there's enough action, or if you put that little bit of suspense on it? Does it fill the 32-page layout? A lot of people I've seen have said, oh, it's 12 pages or it's 18 pages. That's not enough. You need to add more to your story, which means you need to go back to those plot outlines and make sure that you have completed a full story arc for your story. Even if it is a picture book, it should have a full arc, which includes 3 different obstacles and your conclusion. And if you have any questions or want to learn any more about picture book writing, go to journeytokidlit.com. And if you want to go even deeper, you should get the ebook, journeytokidlit.com/picturebookperfection. That is our ebook that is going to give you every single thing you need to know about picture book writing. And it's literally like my brain dumped into an ebook. So it's just one source, one be-all, and you can just have it and go and write an entire picture book and know that you feel confident in your writing. Well, that's about does it for today's episode. As always, be sure to subscribe. We post new videos every week. Until next time, happy writing.